Trap Media USA. Shout out to everybody that's tuning in. What's today? Saturday, November 13th, 10:04 Eastern Time. And today we covering a great championship bout. Two titles on the line. The great IBO championship, the American IBO championship held by Hagler, held by Jones, held by Lennox Lewis, and also the WBC is on the line. And we have two great competitors, Alycia Baumgardner out of Fremont, Ohio. I think that's right outside of Sandusky, if you're familiar with the Ohio area. And she's going up against the champion, Terri Harper. Now, Alycia is 10-1, 6 knockouts. Let me see. I believe her first three fights was like first round knockouts. So her first four fights, she got a TKO. And then in her, what's this? One, two, three, four, five, six. She lost her seventh fight. Her eighth fight was a TKO, and her 10th fight was a TKO. So we see early, just from looking at Box Rec, that Baumgardner has solid power. And I think that's gonna be key in this fight. Now, I watched the fight that she did lose. It's on YouTube right now. She lost against a 9-1 opponent who also has faced the likes of Katie Taylor. And what seemed to give her problems was the pressure and the size. The girl just seemed a little bit bigger than her. She seemed bigger, and she seemed, the thing about Alycia, from everything that I watch, she's very skilled. She's very skilled offensively. She'll remind you at times of a Floyd Mayweather offensively. One thing, if I'm training her, that I'm tightening up, is the defense. And then I also watched which one of these fights? I watched her against Nadia Feliciano. She came out real fast. I think I would want her to be a little bit more patient in certain matchups. And when you fighting a fighter like Christina, don't let her just push you back. At some point, you got to try to make sure your conditioning, because she looks very fit, make sure your conditioning and strength is to the point that if a fighter starts to push you back, that you can kind of, bully your way to get that space to where they're not pushing you backwards, and you stand your ground and get it from inside the pocket, instead of just trying to always work on that back foot where they're putting that pressure on you and that's draining energy from you. So I think those are the two critiques I would have. But the offense, she has the full package. We see the power. We see the ability to box. Now, I didn't see the power as much in that fight, so I don't know if the power translates to the highest level. But I think at this point, I would call this matchup found self crossroads, because I feel like both of these fighters have has come to self. They understand who they are as a person. They understand who they are as a fighter. It's a different confidence. They faced the crossroad of injury. And when talking about Terri Harper, she's just coming off a hand injury. She broke her hand, broke fingers in her hand, and upon getting it fixed, she's opening a jar around Christmas. She gets the surgery, breaks it again, and then she's in sparring and breaks it again. And she just was at a point where she just broke down, because she, like, what is she going to do? She's been training for boxing her whole life, and now she's having to consider going to get a 9 to 5, and that was just a very low point for her. And the same thing with Alycia, coming off an ACL injury. Now, if I'm comparing the injuries and I'm putting myself in both shoes, and having broken bone in the finger, just on a day-to-day response, you never know when you're gonna have to defend yourself. So I was always thinking like, dang, can I close my hand? Can I close my hand again? Just you never know. So I would be more worried about, as a boxer, the hand, because we've seen even like a Gamboa tears ACL in the fight and still make it through the whole fight with a dangerous fighter like Tank Davis. But your hand, it's like, man, what you gonna do? You can't really keep a fighter off you if you can't punch. So that it would be more worry for that. So that's a big wake up call for both fighters. But I think it would be even more of a wake up call if I had a broken hand than a ACL. But the other thing I would say, both of these fighters are in great positions. Alycia has, unlike a lot of fighters, understand the value of branding. She's branded herself outside of the sport, modeling for Tom Ford, Adidas, and I believe it's one other company. And she also has a juicing company that's trying to expose the kids in Detroit to a more healthy lifestyle. Yeah, she's a plant-based athlete, so that's something that I definitely like. I think everything that she stands for is great for women's boxing. I think if she wins, it's it propels American women's boxing, because I think the UK, they understand, they get it. I think even in other countries, I'm not gonna speak specifically. I wanted to say Mexico, but I'll say the UK for sure. They definitely get it, and they definitely understand the value of it. PBC, you have to catch up. You really have to catch up and start supporting these women. I think you're on the wrong side of history by not. And even just from a business perspective, you're leaving a lot on the table that you might not see right now, but they've been cultivating it in other regions and other countries, and you need to get on board. There's no reason that you shouldn't have had Clarissa Shields. There's no reason that you shouldn't have had Alycia Baumgardner. She wanted to be with, but she had to go with Matchroom to make it make sense. So that's a disappointment. But shout out to Eddie Hearn. One thing, this is why I say Eddie's doing it the best right now, because he sees the future. He's not just stuck in the now. He's not afraid to move around. He's not afraid to invest in the women. When Terri Harper broke her hand, she didn't have the insurance to pay for it. Eddie paid for it. So it's a lot of bad press that gets put out there about Eddie because of the Wilder Joshua situation, but there's a lot of other positive things. You have to tell the whole story. And I think too often in this boxing media, we're not telling the whole story. You just tell a piece of what you hate and get so fixated on what you hate that you can't see any good in the situation. I think that comes a lot from the conditioning of the politics, especially in America, that once you slap a negative label on something, they're breeding people not to even entertain conversations or to look at the full picture. It's just once you're bad in one area, you're just overall bad, and that's just not the right perspective to have, especially in a sport like boxing. But yeah, both fighters at a crossroad. Alycia being the more active, she just had a fight uh August 14th against Vanessa Bradford. She was 5-2-2, and now she's facing Terri Harper. That's 11-0-1. She had a draw. Let's move on to Terri Harper. And Alycia is currently fighting out of Tony Harrison's gym. I believe LJ, Tony Harrison's brother's trainer. The father used to train her. She said she's had 5 trainers, just needing to grow, maximizing potential with each one. She said she's pretty loyal, but it's just when she see that she's maxed out somewhere, she's gonna move forward. But she's dedicated to the point that she felt that the Detroit area was best for her to become the best she could be in boxing. And she was traveling every day out there to train. And then she ended up relocating to the area, not necessarily in Detroit, but right outside of Detroit. And then we have Terri Harper from Denby, Maine, Yorkshire in the UK. 5'8.5", 65-inch reach, 25 years old. She's had 12 fights and she's 11-0-1, and they're fighting at 130 pounds. Her last fight was in 2020, November 14th, against Thunderez. Um, and before that was against Natasha Jonas. Now I like Natasha Jonas a lot. They gave her this is the draw. From what I seen, I was seeing the good work from Natasha Jonas. I watched some videos on YouTube. I seen the highlights, but I couldn't find a full fight. I that eighth round when she was caught. Now that's something that she has to look out for because she's unlike a lot of UK fighters. She's fought the fights that I seen was against all black fighters. So she's comfortable fighting the black style. She's comfortable with the aggressiveness. I also seen when she fought for the IBO title against Nozifo Bill. But the difference was they were about the same size. Natasha was a little bit smaller, so that speed is what I think led to her getting caught. She has a pretty sound offense, pretty sound stance. She fights tight. She's fundamentally solid. That's what I like about Terri Harper. She's fundamentally solid. She's growing in confidence in and out the ring now. She says she's really coming into herself where she's not so insecure and she can just go into different rooms and be her. And I think going through that down period will help make her stronger as a fighter as well. But this is like that this is either for both of them, both because she was getting ready to have a unification with Michaela Mayer, but she ended up getting an injury. But this is the crossroads because it's like for both, you're coming off injury. Either you're gonna be at like this level, or you're gonna ascend to that next level where amongst the other greats, amongst the other champions like Michaela Mayer, and have a big fight. So both of them understand that. Alycia was saying like this is her gold ticket. This is it. This is it for both fighters. So I expect the best from both fighters. The Natasha fight was questionable, and Natasha, from what I just seen, she has a little bit more power to me than Alycia, but I think Alycia can take advantage of some of the similar things that Natasha was able to take advantage of. It's just trying to make it a little bit more clear, so being defensively sound along with that offense so that you don't get robbed by them judges. You over there in her backyard. So you really want to make it clear and really want to go in there and make sure that that defense is tight. I think you have the speed advantage, Alycia, but you can't go in there trading because we've already seen even people in the UK were saying this was a questionable draw that Natasha should have got it. You're black as well, so we don't know what favoritism is coming into play. So only thing I would say this that may benefit is it may be with you being with them, it may be a better long term play because how long can even her if Terry's hand last this fight, how long is it gonna last? When is this hand gonna become a problem again? So it might make more business sense for you to be in position. So you might get a fair shake from the judges on that strength. But that's the question too. Is she going to be comfortable working that hand? Is that hand gonna give out at some point in the fight? Is it gonna swell up? So that's something else. If I'm the fighter, I might throw a couple shots just to see where is it at. How comfortable is she with it? If I'm not hitting the body, she got that hand up. Boom, just throw a nice shot at it just to see where it's at. And that's a part of the mind games. One thing I would say, be careful of. She's very good in that mid range throwing the hook. And Alycia, your defense isn't super sound, so she's vulnerable for that hook, and I seen her put Bell down, so she has solid power. I think she just does a lot good, and that's where she can get over on a lot of fires. She does a lot good. Speaking of Terry and Alycia, offense is very good. If she can put everything together with offense, defense, and patience, I would lean a little bit towards Alycia, but if she's not patient, if she's not defensively sound above everything else, then I would have to lean towards Terry. I'm really looking forward towards for this fight. Um, it's it's really a toss up. I don't really know how that hand is gonna be, so I would have to lean towards Alycia, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way, based on the fundamental soundness of Terry, and based on that mid range hook. And I also think her jab could come into play if Alycia is not being fully responsible. But I just want to throw out some other facts. Let me see. Put down. Alycia started wrestling at 8, ACL industry great condition. She started boxing at 8, so she's been in the game a long time. Oh, and she's been sparring Cecilia Brækhus, and she said it's been easy work for her. So that's another thing I think that she has going. One thing that I believe in most at the high level, when you're trying to get to that next point, make sure you got some good sparring in there. You've been in there with an undisputed champion. I'm going with the Ohio native Alycia Baumgardner. Just take your time. Don't rush. Understand where you at. Test that hand out. Try to stay sound. It's a toss up. It's not like I'm 100% saying that it's gonna go this way. So don't take this as, oh, you just going out on a limb. I'm saying she has a chance with everything that's been going on, but Terry is definitely gonna be home. I don't know, man. I This fight close. This fight close because I can really see it going either way. I want to go with the Ohio native, but then something tell me that when you go through something devastating like the hand, as long as it heals up, you gonna you gonna be ready to go. Because when you have to think about going back to something you don't want to do, I can't call this one. I can't call this one. I just think I think as the boxing fans, we gonna win. I don't really have a prediction for this fight. I just hope we get a great fight, and I'm rooting for both fighters because it's just so much on the line. I want Alycia to win, bring it back, bring that American belt back to America. The Ohio native, I want her to win, but as far as the skill level, it's different, but it's things that both fighters do great. So this one, I'm just gonna have to put my hands up. I'm rooting for Alycia. I want Alycia to win, but I expect a great fight, possibly a classic from both. There are things that both can take advantage of, and injury may come into play for both fighters. So we'll see. Let me know what you think in the comments. Trap Media USA. Like, share, subscribe. You tuned in this morning. Much love. It's 10:20 a.m. Eastern time. I'm out.